welcome to another episode. I am your host, WIZE, and I'm excited for my next guest. She has an amazing story to share, so let's jump right into it. Welcome to the show, CK Collins.
Thank
Hey,
you. Thanks for
what,
having
what,
me.
hi. So, so how? All right. So let's just jump right into this because I am a little bit late. What inspired you to embark on your 2 year travel sabbatical after retiring from your publishing company?
I had been through a divorce, and that was one of the reasons I ended up selling the company. And I stayed for 3 years, and it really wasn't the same, when it's your company and when you've sold it to somebody else. But even more than that, it was just this deep longing to figure out what else I could do with my life and who else I could be. I was an empty nester. I was newly divorced, and I had saved money, so I had the ability to travel for a while, and I just kind of wanted to go find the new me.
So how did your travel experiences shape your journey of healing and self discovery?
I think a lot of it is about confidence building and just figuring out I can do this. I did a 500-mile hike. I In Spain, I went to Patagonia. Tried to learn tango in Buenos Aires. I would not say I succeeded in that, but I tried. And it was, this with every little thing or big thing that I did, my confidence grew. And I think when you're married for 30 years and when you go on vacation and you're traveling, you're always with your family or you're always with your husband. And so it was quite the adventure to go do it by myself. And what I found was people, when there's a single woman, and I can't speak to if there's a single man, but people were really nice to me and wanted to engage. And sometimes even they wanted to comfort me, like, "Oh, you poor thing, you're alone." But I was having a blast. They didn't need to comfort me, but I found other Americans, no matter where I was in the world, would always reach out to me, and other English speaking people would do the same thing. And even like Portuguese and Spanish people tried to talk to me, but I didn't know any Spanish. So, but it was great. I mean, it was an adventure, which I was craving at the time, but it was really the confidence building back up, I think, is the most important thing that came out of it.
So can you share a specific moment or destination during your travels that had a profound impact on your personal growth?
I Yes. I remember I was in Patagonia, and I was on this hike that I was starting to think I was going the wrong way because I wasn't seeing anybody else. And I was getting higher and higher and higher up the mountain. And I had started kind of mid morning, which most hikers will start really early. And so I wasn't too worried about it. But I got up to the top of this mountain and I was exhausted, and I had brought food, luckily. But as I kind of came up over there was this ledge, and there was a 360 view of this island that I was hiking on. And I just kind of just sighed and thought, I did this, just me, nobody else. I paid my way to get here. I found the instructions, although I missed the bus and I had to get another bus. But I did this. And this is all me. Nobody did anything. And it was just not, I can do anything I want. It was just one of those. I already knew that, I already believed it, but I had just proven it to myself once again. And then some hikers came around the corner, and I was like, "Oh, good, I'm going to be okay." So I wasn't the only idiot that went up this really hard mountain.
All right. So how did you navigate the challenges of loss while being on the road and exploring new places?
Well, right when the divorce happened, that's in 2018. I was going through the divorce. It wasn't done yet. And that's when I did the 500-mile hike and in Spain. And it's a spiritual hike, and there's 250,000 people a year do that hike. It's very well known. I mean, 50% of the people are Spanish, but the other 50% are from all around the world. And when you get there, it's like you kind of have this innate respect for each other because everybody else is there to walk 500 miles too, or most everybody is. And so I just learned this really strange thing that had never occurred to me before, which is talking to strangers can actually be more comforting than talking to friends and family sometimes. So you can spill your guts to a complete stranger. They can do the same, and then you never see them again. And so, more importantly, though, it was people just were making space for each other and being open to listening to stories without judging, without trying to give advice, without trying to fix you. It was just listening and making space for someone. And I learned to do that. And I think I came back a better mother, a better friend, a better daughter, a better boss, because I became a better listener. These people really taught me that life skill.
Okay. So, can you discuss the role of self love in your journey and the importance of prioritizing self care and everything?
Sure. Yeah, I had been gaslighted for 6 years. There was an affair going on. I was told that it was my fault that the love wasn't there anymore, and
Wow.
I worked too hard. And um, it was we've been married for it started when we were married 24 years. So, we've just been married a long time and you don't need to worry about it. And my gut kept saying, something's really wrong. Something's really wrong. And so I just kept beating myself up, thinking that I had to try harder. I had to do more. I had to do better. And by the time the truth came out, my self confidence and my belief in my intuition was pretty shot. And so this had to be the comeback of the century for learning to love myself. But my sister-in-law, the day I told her what had happened and what was going to happen, that we were getting divorced, saw her that morning. She came to my office that day and she brought me a bracelet that said, "I am enough." And I put that sucker on and I did not take it off for a very long time. I wore it on the Camino. People ask me about it all the time. I thought it was so interesting that people were curious about. And one lady reached over at a nail salon and grabbed my arm and said, "Yes, you are." So sweet. But I had to learn to look in the mirror and say, "You are enough, and I love you, and you're going to be okay. You are strong enough." I mean, other people could tell me that, but until I believed it, it really didn't do me any good. And so that was really a turning point when she gave me that bracelet, and I realized that was the journey I needed to go on. I needed to fall in love with myself.
And that self talk is very important. It's
Mm.
very key because we say some very horrible things to ourselves. So to be able to s- speak positive into yourself and not be negative, it's an amazing accomplishment to be able to do that. And because it's easy, you could have easily been like, "Oh, woe is me, this I'm getting divorced, no
Mhm.
one loves me," but you didn't do that
Yeah, I did it first.
at first. At
And
first,
I gave myself a little pity time, then I started. But that, I mean, it was fairly quickly, but it's a practice, and that's what I tell my coaching clients all the time. It is a practice. This is not you look in the mirror and say, "I love you," and you're done. It's something you've got to do all the time. And if you hear yourself like, I feel so fat today, or I'm getting so old, or nobody loves me, like you said before. I mean, you have to learn to just turn that off. And the more you practice the self-love, and the more, I mean, I tell people, start with a mantra: "I am enough." And anytime you have a negative thought, say, "I am enough." That's it. Not going to go there. I am enough. And that's how I did it. But then as I got more settled in and the fear and the pain weren't what were banging in my head, then um, I could move on to meditation, and I could have different conversations with my head about, what I was going to accomplish and what my dreams were, and creating a vision for myself. So, but you have to start somewhere, and I think simpler is better when you're in a hard place.
Yeah. Okay. One second. So so how did writing your book during your travels contribute to your growth?
Well, the idea for the book came as I was doing my sabbatical travel, and I really tried to increase my gratitude practice and just think about all of the things I was grateful for, but then also the people that I was grateful for. And as I was doing that, it's like, wow, my friend Kelly really helped me get through this. And when she said this to me, it was a turning point. And so as I was doing that practice, I was recognizing the pieces of advice and the sharing of stories, how healing they were for me. And so I ended up writing the book, and each chapter is the advice I was given and telling my story of what was happening at the time. And then I interview the person that gave me the advice, because I wanted them to tell their stories as well as me tell mine, because they're the ones who helped me heal. They were the wise ones. They were the ones who got me over the hump. And so there's 12 chapters, and 10 of them are all that. And then the last two are really about dating and kind of preparing yourself for that.
Okay. All right. So what kind of advice would you give someone who had a similar experience and stuff like that, and wants to get back into dating and wants to get into another relationship?
I absolutely believe that you have to start with yourself. And the title of my book is The Swipe Right Effect. And that's a total play on words. It's
Mhm.
when you swipe right for somebody, it means you're
Yes.
choosing them. And I want you to choose yourself. I want you to swipe right for yourself. And the effect of that is you take your power back, you get unstuck, you get happy. And it's so incredibly important to, when you start dating, to already be who you want to date. If you want to date somebody who you want to travel, then you need to be free to travel. If you want to date somebody who you want them to be happy, you need to be happy. You can't expect them to be happy, and you're not going to bother to, do the work and
Oh,
get
yeah.
happy. And that's where that self-love comes in, and all of those things. You want to date, you're going to end up dating what you put out into the world. If you're sad and angry and bitter, that's who you're going to attract. So choose yourself first, and come into your power, and then date. I dated too quickly, and I try to be really honest about that in the book. And I made mistakes, and
Yeah.
not regrettable mistakes, because I learned from them. And that's why I want to share it. Maybe I can prevent somebody else from walking down that road.
So can you share a specific moment or encounter from your travels that had a profound impact on your outlook?
Um, I think that one day I was in Santiago, which is where the hike leads to. And this was in 2022. I did my second Camino in Portugal. And I'm sitting inside, I had completed it, and it was Easter weekend. And I'm just sitting in a plaza surrounded by all these families and couples and other hikers. And everybody's from all over the world. And there was this family, probably 10 or 12 Spaniards, sitting at a table having a raucous Easter meal. They were loud, and the wine was going around, and It reminded me of my family at home. And but people were saying hello to me. They were being really kind. But when I would just sit there and get quiet myself and listen to everybody else, it's just like, you know, I know I'm important to the people that love me, but I'm such a small, small part of this world. And if I can realize that I'm a small part of this world, then how much smaller are my problems?
Mm.
And, if I can just let things go and not, have a trigger moment and have it overwhelm me. Instead, I realized that's really a small thing in the grand scheme of life. And it's certainly a small thing in the grand scheme of all of humanity and the world. I'm a speck of dust. But that doesn't mean that I think any less of myself. It's just trying to put some perspective on problems and pain and being able to let things go.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's amazing because yesterday I had a guest on, and to see him come on and do the show, he suffered two brain hemorrhages,
Wow.
and for him, and he's a professional speaker now,
Hmm.
and to
Awesome.
see where he's coming from, where he's coming from, and what the amazing stuff that he's doing, especially going through the struggles that he went through to recover from these brain hemorrhages.
Hmm.
It was just inspiration to me to see that, hey, look at this man who's suffered two brain hemorrhages, had two brain surgeries, and he's here telling me, hey, listen, I've gone through this,
Hmm.
but I'm here. I'm still here. And I'm
And
continue
grateful.
continue to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that just made me look at it like, okay, what I'm going through is nothing compared to what he went through.
Right. I
And
do
and,
I do hear that. I
and
mean, it
yeah.
is it's kind of like I feel kind of bad when I think that way, but
No, no,
yeah.
you're right. For me, it was like, man, I shouldn't really be, even though but I'm like, damn, I shouldn't really be complaining about the stuff that I'm going through when this man is going through so much more in life, and his view is amazing.
Right.
The way he looks his life, like, I'm not gonna let any of this stop me. I'm not
Right.
gonna let any of this bring me down. I'm gonna keep going and doing what I'm doing. And to have someone like that, that just is just like, why am I not doing greater things?
Right.
What is stopping me from doing greater things? Like, this man is going through so much in life, and yeah, I've suffered loss and I suffered whatever, but to learn how to walk again and talk again and do all
Mhm.
these things and come back and then suffer another hemorrhage, like,
Right.
you this just, it's like, okay, I got it easy compared to what he went through.
Right.
Yeah, I've suffered stuff, but I didn't have to go through what he went through, and he's still fighting.
Right. And what a legacy to inspire people in that way. I think that I've been thinking a lot about that, and I've actually created a program around life purpose and vision and mission and wealth mindset and personal branding. It's all these things kind of come together to um, all the adversity that you go through, all of the joy that you've had, all of those things make you who you are. And what you leave behind is what you teach people, what you show people. And they're not going to remember what you said. They're going to remember how you made them feel. And that, what a great legacy he just left to you to make you feel that way. To be, you were so inspired because of how he lived his life. And he's just
Yeah,
going to keep on doing that and keep on inspiring people. And we should all strive to have that legacy,
yeah.
to inspire the ones around us and those who look up to us and love us.
No, it made me really look at, like, I shouldn't I shouldn't be down on myself, because there are people out there going through much more worse struggles than I'm going through.
Right.
And if you can look at it that way and put yourself in someone else's shoes that is having so much of a rougher time at it than you are,
Hmm.
it makes you look at your problems and be like, I know that there are problems in it, but are they really that serious that I have to feel this way?
Right. I think that's where in a deep gratitude practice really comes in. And I know some people like roll their eyes when talk about that gratitude. Yeah, right. I'm really grateful for the bad things that happen. But you're not really supposed to be grateful for them, especially
Yeah.
right in the moment. But if you look back at some of the hard things that happened to you, you know, sometimes that's a shift of what something good is coming. You When you walk through the dark valley, when you walk through the hard times, good things can come out of that. But it really comes down to being grateful for what you already have and not looking at what you don't have or what you lost, looking at what you do have in this moment and what's filling your heart now and focus on that. And that's when even better things start to come because if you're being grateful, then you're going to attract more good. If you're feeling good, you're going to attract good. If you're feeling bad, you're going to attract bad. So even when bad things are happening, looking for the good is really important. And I can't imagine what was going through his mind as he's trying to learn to walk again. And my brother-in-law had a brain injury in 2008 and had to make that same comeback. And he's just a walking miracle that he lived. He fell 25 feet and landed on his head.
Wow.
And he made it through. So I don't know the name of the guy you're talking about, but I watched my brother-in-law go through it and wow. It's inspiring how hard he fought and made it back. Made it back.
Yeah, no, it was a great conversation. But it just it showed me that, hey, listen, regardless of what I've been through or what I'm going through, there are people out there who might have it a little bit more rougher than or a little bit more rough than I do, or
Hmm.
and for me to be like, oh, again, it's about you feeling pity about on you feeling pity for yourself and 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 just sitting in that pity pool of just instead of that he it just inspired me to like, okay, yeah, I might be struggling right now, but
Yeah.
let me it inspires you to pick yourself back up and like, yeah, I'm still here, I'm not dead, so I can continue to
Yeah.
battle, continue to strive for greatness. And it was just an amazing experience for me to have that conversation. It was the conversation I needed
Awesome.
to have to help inspire me and motivate me even more.
Right. I read in a book called oh gosh, what's it called? Magic. And she Rhonda Byrne and she writes that her
The
daily
Secret.
practice. Sorry.
She's The Secret. She wrote The
Yeah,
Secret
she
as
wrote
well.
The
Yeah.
Secret.
Yes.
And then she has a 28-day gratitude practice called Magic. And yeah, The Secret really helped me. That it saved me. It got me to where I could understand why I needed to forgive for myself rather than for somebody else. And that it didn't mean I was excusing anything that anybody did. It just meant I was releasing myself
Yeah.
from the pain. But when I started her gratitude practice, she does this simple thing that I love to share with people. But it's like you put your both feet on the ground every day, and you just say thank with one foot and you the other. Thank you for this day. And it's so simple, like just to get up every morning and go, thank you. And or even in the middle of the night, if you got to get up, you can say thank you. But yeah, it's there's all these little things you can do if you're living in, like you said, sitting in your self-pity or you're sitting in unforgiveness or anger or pain. There's these little steps that you can take that end up taking you down a better path than the path that you're going down when you're living in hurt and living in pain. So um, there's always a way out, and when you can't see it, it's still there. You
Yeah.
just have to make the choice to go forward. There's so much power and choosing to be happy, choosing to forgive, choosing. Nobody can take that power from you because it's yours. You have the power to do all of those things. And, and when you hear somebody say, well, they made me feel this way, you let them make you feel that way. So you have the power to turn that back off again, and so that's what I try to tell everybody is the power is in your choice. Just be very aware of the choices you're making.
And it is, and it's great because when I first started my podcast, one of the books I spoke to was The Secret, and to actually sit down with Bob Doyle, who was a contributing factor in The Secret.
Wow.
It was a great experience. It was like when his team reached out to me and was like, Bob Doyle would like to be a guest on your podcast. It was a great moment for me because I knew who Bob Doyle was. I had read The Secret. I had watched the documentary, and here it is. I have listen. I don't. My podcast isn't one of the biggest in the world, but to have someone of his stature reach out and be like, "Hey, I enjoy your podcast. I would love to be a guest." That to me was like, wow.
Yeah, I would be so thrilled if he called to be on my
was,
podcast.
It was an amazing experience to have him and speak to him, and it was like, okay, I'm doing something right. If Bob Doyle wants to be on my podcast, I must be doing something right.
Yeah.
In order for him to even want to be a part of this.
Yeah. And you know how powerful that is, the law of attraction. And he was pivotal in sharing that with millions of people.
Yes.
So really admired that whole team who did that documentary. It's really, and I love that it's free. You can watch it free on YouTube. I mean, it's just amazing.
But people, it was like at that time, people were mocking it and joking it because like, oh, you can't just, because they assume that when you start manifestation that once you think of something that's going to pop up, and
No.
you have to put the actions behind it. You have to really put the actions behind it in order for any of it to work for you.
Right.
And it's not going to be you just, I'm going to think of $1 million and it's going to pop. Like what work are you putting into it? What are you doing in order for you to reach that height, in order for you to become that successful?
Yeah, it is. It's so important to be consistent. And I mean, they say in the book that you don't have to constantly be repeating it, but I do think it elevates or escalates the attraction, the bringing of the good thing that you're looking for or the feelings that you're looking for. But I do think, I almost wish people would learn about law of attraction so they don't bring the negative things to themselves more than I want them to know about bringing the positive things. But it can all happen at the same time. But that was it was so pivotal when I heard, I can't remember exactly who it was I was listening to the audiobook and it was talking about forgiveness, and it was 12 words. I forgive you. I release you. I want you to be happy. And I listened to that part over and over and over again. And I decided this is going to be my practice. I'm going to say these until I mean them. and even to when I finally got to the point where I meant them, I said that to my ex-husband, I still realized I had to say that to myself too. I had to forgive myself for staying somewhere where I wasn't loved. I had to release myself from the pain and the anger. And I had to say, I want you to be happy to myself. Like, you deserve to be happy. You want to be happy. Let's do this. And so those 12 words came from The Secret, and it changed my life.
It had a major impact on my life as well. And that was, you could say that was the catalyst to me getting into self-development and getting into learning and mind shifting of mindset. And because it was this was introduced to me to my first wife. she's the one who started me on my path to self discovery,
Mm.
to self development, and so I really believe it was her preparing me for what was to come. It was because at the age of 31, I lost her in a car accident,
Oh, wow.
and I was lost for quite a while. I was self destructive, but it was her introducing me into that world, getting me started to that. Now I'm realizing like this is what she was preparing me.
Yeah.
She knew I was going to go through some times, but I needed a little bit of that guidance inside of me. Even though I was lost for a little bit at grieving and dealing with other losses after that,
Mm.
it was those teachings that that I had learned prior that eventually would come back and help me get 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 a hold and really change my life around.
Well, yeah, that's beautiful. That, that's again, that was her legacy.
Hmm.
That was her legacy to you, was in, without really knowing why, she was preparing you for something,
Yeah,
making you a wiser person, and more capable of getting through that dark time.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I believe that 100%. It was like, who knows, had I not learned these teachings, where I would eventually be at. Like, how would I have been able to deal with it, not having the resources that I knew were there, or the teachings that were there to help me through this. And
Hmm.
so I'm eternally grateful to her for getting me started and showing me that regardless of what goes on in your life, there's always you can always get over it and live your life.
Hmm. Push through.
Yeah,
Make the choice to be happy.
absolutely, definitely. It's something that I've embraced, and I'm looking, and to be able to do what I'm doing now, and do the podcast and have the great conversations that I'm having. It's a blessing.
Yeah. Is that why you started the podcast?
I had been wanting to start a podcast since 2019, and it had nothing. It was actually not going to be anything to do with what we're talking about. It was going to be a sports podcast,
I
and
can talk sports too.
so can I. So can I. But it's crazy because then I was going to start with a friend. We didn't start. He and his girl got pregnant, and so it was me. I had the equipment at home, just messing around. And in 2020, I get furloughed from my job, and I had a bunch of time on my hand.
Mm.
And I started with 5 minutes of an introduction of an episode, and I finally released it, and that was episode one. And the first couple of episodes were me talking about everything that was going on, the pandemic, the elections, the George
Mm.
Floyd situation, and I was enjoying doing the podcast. It was just the content is not what I wanted to put out.
Mm.
So when I started focusing more on having interviews and conversation pieces, is when I truly fell in love with with podcasting, because now I'm sitting down with people and I'm picking their brains and I'm asking questions, and they're sharing their stories, and it's like, all right, this is what I love to do right here, to have people come on, share their experiences, share their stories, and it's like, okay, this is what I want. This is what I want to do.
Yeah. It's very special to be able to do it. I came from the news business, and I I don't know that people who don't have the experience, like, don't get to have the experience of basically meeting a total stranger and having a meaningful conversation,
Hmm.
and knowing that it's going to get shared. I mean, that's something that's kind of abnormal. It's not something that everybody gets to do or has the luck to be able to do it. And I during 2020 is when I really started doing more interviewing. I was the publisher, so I was really kind of running the business. I wasn't doing interviews. I
Yeah.
paid people to do interviews, but during the pandemic, it was like we were all hands on deck because the news was coming out. It was 24/7 news
Yeah.
cycle, and we're a small town newspaper, and so I was helping too, and I just fell in love with it. The whole video, doing it by Zoom or StreamYard or Facebook Live, and having that personal connection with people that you can't see right now, because we're locked in our
Yeah.
houses. And I just continued to want to do it, and I ended up starting my podcast as well. So it's
It's
special.
it is. It is. It's funny because I had been using StreamYard to interview people because I was strictly audio at first. So I would sit in the StreamYard room like this, and I would record the audio onto my Rodecaster Pro, and that's how I did my first. Oh my god, few probably like first 200 episodes, because my first summer I went kind of crazy recording. I was recording every day,
Wow.
and I have so much audio content that I have not used that it's crazy, because I was recording 2-3 episodes a day, and I did this probably for like 6-7 months straight, and I don't know how I didn't burn myself out, but
Wow.
I created a lot of content, and then so I'm interviewing this couple, and they're branding and marketing specialists, and we're on StreamYard, and they go, and the husband goes, so you do video? I'm like, oh no, I'm not ready yet. And he goes, "Oh, okay.
It's time.
Do you do video?" And I'm like, and I made up another excuse. And the third time he asked me, I went, record, I do video now. And I understood why he was asking me, because I'm like, it's like, dude, you're already using StreamYard. Why not just press record and have
Hmm.
the extra content? This is extra content for you. This is extra
Yeah.
stuff for you to use to help grow your podcast and help you grow your brand. And so from there, I started doing video, and it was pre-recorded. Fast forward to last summer, I'm already doing pre-recordeds, and I had started doing I started doing a talk radio show with some friends. They have a morning show, and they invited me to be a special co-host Thursdays and Fridays. And so shout out to Snowman in the Morning with Cole Johnson. So I started doing the show, and it's live, and I love the interaction with the people in the chat. It makes them a part of the show.
Hmm.
And so with that experience, I'm like, I think I want to start going lives. And it's different when you go lives compared to when you post in pre-recorded videos. You can always it's much more easier to promote the pre-recorded videos, but the lives was so much more fun because it made the audience a part of the show.
Mm.
It made them be a part of the show because now they're asking questions, they're sending messages, they're,
Yep.
they're leaving their opinions and stuff like that. And so now I'm like, all right, if I feel good because now it's their show as well. Now it's they're a part of history now. If they go on YouTube, their comments are there. Their questions are being asked. So it was like, okay, this is what I love to do now. This is and I do live 3 days a week now.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I
But
pre-record mine still. I'm not a pro like you. I'm a newbie.
I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm still developing it. But it's that's the fun of it, is being able to pivot and being able
Hmm.
to grow, and yeah, I started strictly audio. Then the next step, pre-recorded video, And then the evolution of that was going live. And so it's been a wonderful journey to be able
Yeah.
to meet the amazing people that I've met, have the conversations that I've had, to have people message me and say, "Hey, I needed to hear that episode. It was awesome. Thank you." It's
Yeah.
those comments that drive me to go even harder.
Yeah. I agree 100%.
All right. What else? See, give me 1 second. So, how has your transformation impacted your relationships with your family and friends?
I feel like my friends, our friendships deepened. So, I mean, it was beautiful. Like the support that, but in helping me, I was also able, as our friendship got deeper, I was able to help them more. Um, I think my children, and I had to form, new and different relationships. We had, the love was there, but they were adults, they were young adults, but we were able to start interacting as adult to adult because there was so much going on. We just had to. And they were super helpful in you know helping take care of me. And instead of just me taking care of them all the time, it came reciprocal, and we're taking care of each other, and that was really beautiful. And my siblings were great. They were super supportive, and so were my parents. And I still have a very, very good relationship with my in-laws. I'm very close to them, and they told me I couldn't divorce them. I could only divorce their son. And I love that. It was sweet. But I would just say deeper. When you go through stuff together, your relationships deepen.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, can you discuss the role of vulnerability in your journey and how it contributed to your personal growth?
Yeah, I think the whole act of, like I was talking about before, like going on the Camino and opening up
Yeah,
about my story and my pain, um, I began to realize that being vulnerable was actually a really courageous thing. It wasn't a thing of weakness. It was a
yes.
thing of courage.
Mhm.
And now there can be a fine line there, with somebody just spewing all of their life story and being angry and all of that. That's not being vulnerable. I think there's sharing, and then
There's
there's
oversharing.
just
Yeah,
complaining. And so I think, and watching other people be vulnerable made me more courageous to do it too. And so when people would share their stories with me, it really helped me grow as well. But when you're sharing your feelings, that is a place of vulnerability. And sometimes your feelings get stomped on when you do that, especially in the dating world. And but I still think it's like the best place to be. You're not going to grow, you're not going to be able to walk down that path and go forward into your life unless you're willing to take a risk. And being vulnerable is taking a risk, but it's so worth it
yeah,
to
it
to
is.
be. And what Brene Brown says, without vulnerability, you can't be seen.
Yeah,
You can't show who you are. And I think I watched that video that she has on Netflix called Call to Courage, and I write about it in my book because it's so good. That's one of the empowerment practices. Go watch that show because it's so powerful. It really changed. I guess I had learned it, but I couldn't have named it. I couldn't have said what it was that
yeah.
had happened to me. But when she said vulnerability is courage, I was like, okay, I'm courageous. She made me see myself that way. And so I try to share with people who are just like, oh, I would never say that out loud. And I said, it's the courageous thing to do, and I love that she gave those words to me. It's been really helpful to help in a way that I can help other people as a coach, and I can help other people by my writing and things I post on my blog, is, to understand that at a really where it can resonate with other people.
Yeah. All right. So it is time for you to get the solo screen. Let plug away, let everybody know where they can find you, where there's websites, everything, everything.
Everything. Okay.
Everything.
My website is ckcollins.co, .co. And on there, you can find links to my book, which is The Swipe Right Effect, The Power to Get Unstuck. And there's a workbook coming out next month, which July of 2023. And I'm also starting a program called Momentum. And so you can find a tab on there for that. And that is for a program, 6-month program for women where they learn to develop their own legacy and find their own life purpose. And then on social media, I'm CK Collins author on pretty much everything.
All right. Thank you so much for being a guest. This has been a great conversation. We had people, Facebook users say great guest and discussion. Um, Mickey Delaney says hi, Wise, and hi, Kelly. Hi. Hi,
Hi.
Mickey. Um, Again, Facebook users asked us how we're both doing. And relations can be very difficult during these times, especially with social media. Yes, very true, very true.
Totally true. Yeah.
But
It's important. It's important to behave on social media if you want to have a relationship.
yes, yes, it is
Have
important.
discussions before you share.
Yes. So yes, and they go very true. You never know who is watching you. People have a lot of power, and you can be an inspiration to many. Yes, you can. You can. So always be aware of what you're doing and how you're acting. Definitely on social media.
Yeah. It
Um,
can
but
be a
um,
powerful tool, but it can also
yes,
be dangerous.
it can. It can. It's it's been a great tool to use for me to help me build my audience and build my podcast.
Me too. Yeah.
Because I remember when I couldn't get a guest on,
Mm-hmm.
and right now I'm booked through September. I'm booked through October with
Wow.
guests, and
That's amazing.
it's a blessing. And to me, like I said, I could remember when I would reach out to people, and I would get no's everywhere. No,
Wow.
no, no. And of course, oh, I had just been starting out, and I didn't have an audience, and people were like, "No, your numbers aren't good enough for me." And I'm
Uh,
like, "Okay, that's all right." I'm like, "I'm new, I'm green. I don't. This is just." But eventually, the no's turned to yes, and then the podcast really started growing and developing, and I started building relationships and started joining groups like Podmatch. Podmatch is an amazing tool to use for podcasters.
it is. I love it. Love
Listen,
it.
that is one of the reasons I am booked through
Yeah.
October.
Me
It's
too. I'm
Podmatch.
12 weeks out right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
I just released my 10th episode today.
because of
Woohoo.
Podmatch is because of the relationships that I'm building through Podmatch, and it's the relationships that, especially with Alex and other people that I've been able to connect with. You'll be amazed at how small the small this community is. Like
Right.
a lot of the people that I've met in different places, they know each other. And it's like, oh,
Hmm.
you know this person? Yeah, you know this person. And it's just amazing those relationships that you build that you would have not had I not started this journey, I would have not met a lot of the people that I know to today
Right.
that I'm very good friends with. And some of these relationships that I've built through podcasts and are lifelong friendships.
Yeah.
And
It's amazing.
I love it. I love the fact that I can do something I love to do, and share a message and share people's journeys, because you never know who has to listen to this episode. I don't know who out there needed to hear me and Kelly sit down and speak, but it was
Right.
supposed to happen because it's happening.
Right. Yep.
But
It's that positive message. Attracting.
yeah, it is. It is. It's that. It's honestly in the last 6, 7, 8 months to a year when I really focused on what I wanted my podcast to truly be. it's really taken off. It's
Yeah.
really grown in leaps and bounds because of my shift in mindset
Mm,
and my shift and on how I deal with everything else. So it's been a wonderful journey,
yeah.
and
Well, I
I
appreciate you having me on because it was an honor.
I appreciate you being the guest. This is great. This was a great conversation. It was, like I said, it needed to be had, and so thank you so much. I am definitely grateful for you being a guest. But don't leave just yet. Let me close out
Oh,
the show, and we'll chat a little bit off the air.
okay.
All right. Let's come on. Now it is time for shout outs. Big shout out to everybody in the chat. I don't know who you are, Facebook user. It could be a couple of people that stopped by or by me, Corrado. I see my friend Veronica come through and share love the other day. So if it's you, Veronica, shout out to you. Shout out to Mickey Delaney for coming through. Shout out to everybody who's showing me love on these last few months. I greatly appreciate it. It's been a great journey. Big shout out to my real wise fan, Poppy J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady. Love you. Big shout out to my guest, Kelly's, for coming through and sharing her story and just be an inspiration for people out there. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless you. Be safe. You know how your boy Wise does it. Peace out.